The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet hills when Ly felt that something in the air had changed. It wasn't the calm after the storm, it was the uneasy silence that follows when people start to talk behind closed doors. Ever since the flood, his relationship with Sam had drawn attention, too much attention. What once was a tender story of two hearts finding each other after disaster had now become the subject of rumor and resentment. At the office, whispers followed him like shadows. Some claimed Sam only stayed close to Ly for protection. Others said she had taken advantage of his kindness to rebuild her life faster than the others. Each word was like a small cut, unseen but deep. Ly tried to ignore them, focusing on his work, but when even his supervisor hinted that it's not wise to mix love with duty, he knew something larger was forming, a quiet conspiracy that aimed to destroy not only his reputation but also the woman he loved. That evening, Ly found Sam sitting by the river, her reflection trembling in the fading light. She smiled when she saw him, unaware of the storm that was gathering around them. He wanted to tell her everything, but when he saw the peace in her eyes, his heart softened. "Are you tired?" she asked gently. "Not tired," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how love could be so fragile in a world full of envy and lies." As night fell, Ly made a silent promise to himself. Whatever was coming, he would face it. If the world tried to tear them apart, he would stand against it even if it cost him everything. The conspiracy was only beginning, but so was his resolve. The next morning, the air in the office felt heavier than usual. Ly entered the conference room, greeted by polite smiles that didn't reach anyone's eyes. A file lay open on the table, his name stamped across the top. Inside were photos, emails, and twisted fragments of truth. Someone had been watching him, following every meeting, every visit to Sam's farm. The head of the department cleared his throat. "Ly," he began carefully, "we've received reports that you've been using company resources for personal matters. We hope this isn't true." Ly's jaw tightened. He knew instantly who was behind this: Mr. Vin, an ambitious colleague who had always wanted Ly's position. And now, he was using Sam to destroy him. When the meeting ended, Ly stepped outside into the blinding sunlight, anger burning quietly beneath his calm expression. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "If you care about Sam, you'll end things now, before she gets hurt." For a long moment, Ly just stared at the screen. The sound of the city faded. Only the echo of that single threat remained. That evening, he went to see Sam. She was kneeling in her garden, her hands covered in soil, her face glowing with the simple joy of caring for life. When she saw the worry in his eyes, her smile faded. "Ly, what's wrong?" He hesitated, then took her hand. "Someone is trying to come between us. They want me to leave you." Sam's eyes widened in disbelief. "Why would they do that? We've done nothing wrong." Ly looked away, the weight of the truth pressing on him. "Because we love each other," he said softly. "And some people can't stand that." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of earth and rain. For the first time since the flood, the danger wasn't from nature, but from human hearts, poisoned by jealousy and greed. And Ly knew this was only the beginning. Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew like a vine wrapping tighter around Ly's life. Rumors spread faster than the wind, whispers of corruption, of favoritism, of love born from pity. Every time he walked through the corridor, voices fell silent, and eyes turned away. What hurt most wasn't the lies themselves, but the way people believed them so easily. Sam tried to stay strong. She continued her work, tending the garden, helping rebuild the nearby farms. But even there, she began to feel the sting of gossip. Women she once called friends now avoided her, and some villagers whispered cruelly behind her back. "She only has what she has because of him." One night, after a long day of meetings filled with tension, Ly arrived at her house, exhausted and angry. Sam greeted him at the door with a soft smile, but he could see the sadness hiding behind her eyes. "They came here today," she said quietly. Some men from your department. They asked questions about us. About you. Lee's heart sank. Did they threaten you? No, she whispered, but their words did. He took a deep breath, forcing down the anger rising in his chest. They think they can scare us, but they're wrong. Sam reached for his hand. Lee, I don't want you to lose everything because of me. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady, full of love and fear, all at once. Lee looked at her, his heart aching with both pride and pain. Listen to me, Sam. What I feel for you isn't something anyone can take away. They can destroy my job, my name, but not this. He placed her hand over his heart. Not what's here. Outside, thunder rumbled again in the distance, as if the heavens themselves were warning that another storm was coming. But this time, Lee was ready. The world had turned against him, yet his heart was unshakable. The conspiracy might have begun in whispers, but now it would face the roar of truth. The storm came, not from the sky, but from within the city walls. One morning, Lee was summoned to an emergency board meeting. Inside, the room felt cold and hostile. At the center of the table sat Mr. Vin, wearing a confident smile that made Lee's stomach tighten. Documents were spread out before the directors, altered records, fake signatures, and photographs twisted to look like evidence of Lee's misuse of company funds. The accusations were brutal. They painted him as a man blinded by love, using his authority to benefit Sam. Lee stood silent for a long time, then raised his head. His voice was calm but carried a power that silenced the room. You can fabricate papers, but not my conscience. Everything I've done, every decision, was to help people after the flood. If compassion is a crime, then I am guilty, Mr. Vin smirked. Beautiful words. But words won't save your career. Lee met his gaze steadily. Maybe not, but they'll save my soul. That evening, he returned to Sam's house, his name already tarnished, his job suspended. She ran to him, eyes wide with worry. Lee, what happened? He took her hands. They've taken everything from me, except you. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, You didn't have to do this for me. He smiled faintly. I didn't do it for you. I did it for us, for the truth. Outside, the rain began to fall again, soft and endless. Yet this time, it didn't feel like destruction. It felt like cleansing, washing away lies, fear, and everything that tried to keep them apart. In that quiet moment, under the rain, Lee pulled Sam close and said, They can take my title, my position, but not my love. Some things are too pure to be destroyed. And as thunder rolled gently across the horizon, the two stood together, stronger, braver, and ready for whatever came next. The conspiracy had broken his world, but it could not break his heart. From Lee and Sam's story, we learn that true strength is not measured by how much power one holds, but by how deeply one can stand firm when everything else collapses. Lee's world was shaken by lies and betrayal, his reputation destroyed, his career stripped away, yet he never wavered in his belief in truth or his love for Sam. That courage to protect what is right, even when the world turns against you, is what defines real integrity. In a society where greed and manipulation often triumph, Lee's choice to confront the conspiracy showed that morality still holds value. He didn't fight to save his position. He fought to preserve his dignity and protect the woman he loved from injustice. His defiance was quiet but powerful, the kind of bravery that doesn't shout, but endures. Sam, too, became a symbol of resilience. Despite fear and uncertainty, she chose to stand by Lee, proving that love rooted in sincerity can weather any storm. Together, they showed that love is not only an emotion, but also an act of faith, a decision to believe in someone even when the world demands doubt. The story reminds us that storms, whether of nature or of the heart, always test who we are. When faced with betrayal, we can choose bitterness or courage. When our truth is challenged, we can remain silent or rise to defend it. Lee chose courage, and through his fall, he discovered something greater than success, peace within himself. Ultimately, The lesson is simple yet profound. Truth may be defeated temporarily, but it can never be destroyed. When love and integrity walk hand in hand, no conspiracy, no storm, and no betrayal can ever truly win. The story of Ly Tu Diem is not just a tale of love and betrayal. It is a mirror reflecting the battles many of us face when life tests our loyalty, integrity, and faith in others. What makes their story powerful is not the romance itself, but the way they chose to protect that love when the world tried to tear it apart. Ly's downfall began the moment he refused to play by the rules of corruption. In a world where deceit is rewarded and kindness is mistaken for weakness, he stood firm in his principles. He knew that standing up for what is right would cost him his position, his wealth, and his reputation. But he also knew that to remain silent would mean losing something even greater, his soul. And so, when the conspiracy unfolded, he faced it not with anger, but with quiet dignity. His courage reminded us that integrity is the one thing no one can take away unless we surrender it ourselves. Tu Diem, on the other hand, embodied the quiet strength of love. She didn't have power, connections, or influence. What she had was faith in Ly, in goodness, and in the belief that love built on honesty can survive even the darkest storms. Her loyalty was not blind, it was brave. She saw the brokenness in Ly, yet she chose to stand beside him when everyone else walked away. Her love became his refuge, and together they built something indestructible, not a perfect life, but a meaningful one. Through their story, we see how easily the world can twist truth into lies and love into scandal. But we also see how two people, by holding on to each other and their principles, can rise above betrayal. The conspiracy that sought to destroy them ended up revealing their true strength. It showed that adversity does not create character, it reveals it. The most profound lesson of all is this: storms are inevitable. There will always be people who envy, deceive, or try to break what is pure. But when you choose to face the storm with truth in your heart and love in your hands, no force can truly defeat you. The rain may fall, the thunder may roar, but eventually, the sky clears and those who stood firm are the ones who see the rainbow. Ly Tu Diem's journey teaches us that even when the world misunderstands us, we must never abandon what is right. Love without honesty will fade, and success without integrity will crumble. But a heart that loves truthfully and stands bravely will always find peace, even in ruin. So when life conspires against you, remember Ly's quiet defiance and Tu Diem's unshaken faith. The storm will pass, it always does. What remains is the light you carry within, the truth you refuse to let go of, and the love that no betrayal can ever destroy.